Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. This is Jenny Reads Maybe, where maybe I read or maybe I don't. So for today's video, I am going to do my mid-month wrap up. I decided it would be easier to start doing mid-month instead of like full months, just because I am reading a lot more than when I first started this channel and first started posting. So I went from reading like 16 books a month to 28, 29, 30, just kind of depending on the mood. So for the month of June, in the first half of June, I read 11 books, which is a little bit slower than before in previous months of this year, but I've been kind of in a funk. I wouldn't call it a slump, but normally I am a reader who really loves giving 5 stars. Like, I'm totally happy to give a book 5 stars, or even 4 stars if I really enjoy my time, even if it's not like the best thing I've ever read, just because like enjoyment wise it was. But I find that because I'm reading more, I'm giving a lot more 3 stars, 2 stars, and I'm just not as excited about reading those, so it has to kind of push through that content and just getting to the finish, and that takes a lot of energy, and my antidepressants and mood stabilizers don't make that easy for me. But anyway, we're gonna start. So the first book I read this month was Mercy by Sarah Kate. Now, I love this series. I gave this book 4.5 stars out of 5, so obviously I really enjoyed it. This series is the Salacious Players Club series, and it follows the co-owners of essentially a sex and kink club. Now, this book was Maggie and Bo, and it's been a book that I have really wanted to read since I started this series back in, oh my gosh, March or April. And I really wanted to get to it just because Bo was the kind of character in book 1 that I love. Kind of gives me like Jamie Tart vibes from Ted Lasso, where he starts off as this character that you're really supposed to not like, but you know he has a tortured past, and you know he's just like an emo boy who needs love and comfort. And so that's like my favorite MMC to read. And this book did not let me down. I really enjoyed their love story. I really enjoyed like how kink was explored in their relationship, and just kind of how the dynamics functioned, and kind of like everything along that lines. I did think the part of the third act was a little not rushed, but there was a lot happening in very little time. And while I enjoyed it, I wish there was just more time to kind of explore what was happening as a result of their relationship at that point. But overall, I liked it. I did give it 4.5 stars. Definitely recommend reading it. The second book I read this month was Entranced by the Basilisks by Lillian Lark. This is another series I'm trying to get through. It is the Monstrous Matches series. This was not my favorite in the series, but I do want to go back and reread it. I think this month, with how I've been feeling, I didn't really give it a fair shot, but this month I did give it 3.5 stars out of 5. I liked it. I enjoyed my time reading it. I just wasn't in the headspace, I think, to read this, but I pushed through. So as I said, I'm gonna go back and reread it. It is following oh my gosh, I don't even remember their names, but it's right here. Let me pick it up. It is following our main female character. Oh my gosh, this just shows what my reading month has been. But she falls in love with these 2 basilisks, and obviously it's a fun, smutty, steamy time. And like the other books in this series, it really does kind of like sneak up on you and surprise you with how deep it can get for a monster romance. Not that monster romances can't get deep, but just like, I'm always surprised with how much I enjoy the plots and everything. This was obviously MMF, and the 2 MMCs that she falls for have a history of hooking up. it was fun. I liked it. I want to reread it, as I said, and yeah. My third book was Cupid's Peak by Lee Jacot. I don't know, but this was a book that people read a lot during one of the novelathon sprints stuff this year. And it was on my Kindle Unlimited library. I've been really wanting to kind of get through that and get more books, so I picked this one up. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars out of 5. I'm kind of in a weird place with novellas right now where some of them I'm really enjoying, but others are just kind of mid. And this was one of those that was just kind of mid, even though like in theory I really liked it. It was something that just felt okay at the time. And it follows our two main characters who are essentially like tricked into going on a date with each other by the main female character's sister, and they have a past. They've had like previous feelings, but it didn't work out in high school, and they kind of explore how their feelings of adults and how they knew that the first time they liked each other it wouldn't work out because they were so opposite, but now they kind of have grown and are coming together for more accurate, or more not accurate, but like a second chance. But it's not a second chance romance. It's just very much feeling like we can explore our feelings now, we're adults, and we can work through our issues. So overall, it was okay. I gave it 3.5 stars. I might check out others in this like holiday novella series, but who knows. My next book was Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. I did have an arc of this one, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. The pacing was sort of weird, and that's why I didn't get a full 5 stars, but it is a romantasy book it's like a sapphic romantasy set in the Regency era, and one of the main female characters has a curse on her, and they're trying to figure out who set the curse and how to get rid of the curse. And the person that she falls in love with is suspected of like casting the curse, but it's kind of like a workout investigation. Like, it was really good, and I really enjoyed the feelings once it got there. But as I said, the pacing was sort of off for me. It kind of came in, and what you thought was going to be happening at the end was really like close to the middle. And yeah, but overall, I enjoyed my time. It was 4-star read. I believe that there's going to be more kind of set in this universe, which I will enjoy. What was interesting about this was that the narrator was not one of the main characters. It was an outside like force, and so I really enjoyed that. The next book I read was Substitution by Morgan Elizabeth, and I gave that 4.5 stars out of 5. And so I have been reading my way through Morgan Elizabeth's backlist, trying to get to the place where the playlist is, but also just kind of catching up because I really enjoy her writing and her characters and just kind of the stories that she writes. I enjoy that they're typically small town and that they follow female characters who are going through it, but the men who like really support them through that. And The Substitution was no different than the others. The Substitution follows our main female character who is a secret sibling to other characters in the universe, and she comes in and kind of introduces herself in the middle of a chaotic time. And so she comes in, she gets hired for a job by our main male character to be like not the office assistant, but it was kind of like getting his business together. He owns a construction company, and it is finally to the place where it can be taking off, but he needs that extra help with organization and kind of handling the office management. It was really good. It was a 4.5 star out of 5, as I said. I really love the characters and I just love their stories, and I love how like the title works into their romance. With this series, because it is her like first series, you're kind of seeing how her writing has developed over time, because I've read 'Tis the Season for Revenge and I really love that and I gave it 5 stars, but you can see the difference in her writing from that to this. And not that that's a bad thing. I love seeing like the progression of writing, but overall, it's a fun time. I definitely recommend this series if you like small town romances, but also like that very typical kind of dynamic of like small town boy falls for like girl with a lot of things happening and emotions and things. Overall, please read the series. It's good. The next book I read was Guava Flavored Lies by J.J. Arias, and I gave this 3 stars. It was a solid read, but I genuinely felt that it could have been a YA book. It could have been a YA book because so first of all, it has a very similar plot to some previous like YA books where the 2 families are rivals in like this kind of restaurant business, and obviously the main characters are going to fall in love. This is a sapphic romance, and it does have, oh my gosh, it does have rep for like POC characters. It was good, but again, as I said, it could have been a YA. I felt like it was sort of childish, and not that made it bad, but just that it wasn't believable that this could be where they are in life. And the way the characters handled things was sort of childish. Overall, it was good. I did enjoy my time reading it, but I think I would have liked it more if the smut was cut out and it was a YA book. Overall, it was very good. The next book I read was one of my favorite of the month, and that is Reckless by Elsie Silver. I have been trying to catch up to this book for months before its release, because the Chestnut Springs series is quite honestly one of my favorite series of all time. It is a cowboy romance series, which I love. I love cowboy romances. They could be my whole personality at this point. And I just was obsessed with Theo and Winter's story. I am on the side that I don't believe Winter needed a redemption arc. I think that she was going through it. She had a lot happening kind of building up to this, and I love her. I loved her before this book. I will love her after this book, and she's just the kind of character that, again, is like Jamie Tart, where you kind of have that, like, she is mean and not a great person, but you know there's stuff happening in her life that makes her that way. This was a surprise pregnancy book, which I'm not going to say I don't like surprise pregnancy. They just tend to be books that I won't gravitate towards. But this one was really good. I liked how the conflict worked out and how the secret baby worked out. It was really good. I really enjoyed Theo. He was the kind of character that just like was sunshiny and happy and just like a joy to read about. And him falling in love with kind of grumpy, like tortured not Willow. Oh my god, Winter. And watching him falling in love with Winter was just really good. I really enjoyed this. It was probably one of my favorites of the month. Next, I read Priest by Sierra Simone. This was a book on my TBR, and I've been meaning to get to it because I've heard really great things about this series. This book, people say, is not the strongest in the series, and I understand why. I thought it was sort of wild, but also I really enjoyed kind of how their relationship explored parts of faith that to me felt really moving. And I find that Sierra Simone does this really well. This isn't my first Sierra Simone, and it won't be my last, but she tends to explore super like deep, maybe not religious all the time, but just like trauma or like things happening in the characters' lives that ultimately makes you feel stronger in where you might be in that moment. And so I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was sort of funny, and the final like chapters were funny to me. I can't wait to pick up the other ones because I've heard that they only get better as the series goes on. If you don't know, this follows our 2 main characters. One's a priest and one is a girl who comes in and they fall in love, and there's a lot of steamy, smutty times and a lot of things that like are that typical Sierra Simone nature where it's like, this is wild and this can't be good, but I'm reading it and it is. So overall, I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was Rein Me In by Kayla Gross, and I give this another 4 stars. It is another cowboy romance, small town, Texas, plus size heroine, and I enjoyed like every second of this. It was that like the romance was really good. I loved like how it developed. He is her younger brother's best friend, and her younger brother died 5 years ago, so she's still kind of grieving that loss. And she comes back to town, and inevitably feelings develop, and it was just super good. I really enjoyed like the grief aspects because there were a lot of them that I could relate to at this point in my life, and they were just the kind of couple that was really sweet, and I really loved it. I can't wait for more in the series. I'm excited for his brother's book because his brother has a lot of like also grief because their dad is dead, but he's kind of like tortured and going through a lot and doesn't know how to deal with his emotions. So I'm excited to see that author's future works. I'm also going to pick up other works that are currently out because I believe she has a like fantasy romance series that I want to get to, and then also like a rockstar romance, and I love a good rockstar romance. So 4 stars, really great, definitely recommend. The next book I read was Dear Mr. Black. Now this is one of those books like I was talking about earlier where it took me several days to get through this. It is following Mr. Black and his across the street neighbor who is best friends with his daughter. And I read this for Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl's like Patreon book club, and it's by Shanora Williams. I think I'm gonna end up giving it a 2.5 or a 3-star read. I feel like it really played into that like forbidden aspect, but at the same time it wasn't angsty enough for me, and it kind of felt like the smut didn't make up for what was lacking in their relationship. And the ending really had me shook. I'm not gonna like say what the ending was, but it is in a duet. So there's a second book that you have to read to kind of continue where it left off, but it was interesting no less. So 2.5, 3 stars. I will probably pick up the second book, not necessarily because I want to, but because I need to know what happens next and how their relationship is going to come through how the last book ended. And then the 11th book I read in the first half of the month of June was Crimson River by Devney Perry. I have been in my Devney Perry era this year, as I said in a previous video. I read the entire Eden series. This is the newest release for the Eden series, and I gave it 5 stars. This series has been a series that's kind of awakened something in me, and that is my love for romantic suspense. I love a good romance, right? I love contemporary romance. I love a cowboy romance. I love just like a straight up romance, but romantic suspense romances have something in them that just keeps me invested. I love like the background plots of investigating things or just kind of what is happening in like the city or the town and the drama. And it just keeps me really invested. So I gave this 5 stars. It follows Vance and Lila, and their love story was just so sweet, and I loved them. I loved the like mystery suspense parts of this as well, because it starts off with Lila being attacked by a man in the woods, and that man in the woods is a murderer. And this Vance, when he comes to town, he is trying to find this man who attacked Lila in the forest, because he is the cop that was investigating the original crime. And the way that this played out was so good. I cried reading it. This is going to be a series that I love, and that it's going to be a series that I want to reread, because I love the Edens. I love their family dynamic. I love everything about this town of Quincy, Montana that Devney Perry has created, and I can't wait for Mateo's book later this year. This is all I'm going to be thinking about. So those were the 11 books that I read in the first half of the month of June. So you can stay tuned for my second half wrap up, where I'll talk about the remainder of the books that I've read in the month of June. comment down below one of the books that you read in the first half of June and what you thought of it, or just kind of what your rating was. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Anyway, peace out. See you later.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.